One. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here again with us to Under Construction, Restoring the Whole Woman. I am your host, Cynthia Martin, here with my lovely co-host, Sonia Marie. And we are her conscious life experts and holistic wellness advocates. This is a weekly broadcast where we share ideas, out-of-the-box ideas, and courageous conversations about perseverance, authenticity, and thriving as conscious modern women. And we welcome you here to episode 3. We are so excited to be here. Hi, Sonia. How are you today?
I'm well. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm doing great. Just, getting pumped up for these shows and what we're up to, because I think those who are here who find us are up to big things. Part of what inspired us to put ourselves out there in this way, which is, not our comfort zone, right?
Right.
But it's what's happening in the shifts in consciousness and the shifts in the social and economic environments all the way around the globe, the changes that we cannot get away from, and we're either going to be part of it or be swept away by it in one fashion or another, right? So that's what just kind of gets me really pumped up, because we talked about this in our first show, and how this broadcast came about, and the intention behind it is not just about putting out information to help yourselves understand yourselves better, but how to thrive in this world in a very authentic way and owning all your gifts. It's a movement. It's one of many movements, and our idea is to bring ourselves connected and be a branch in that growing tree, right? Like, it's just kind of expanding and reaching further and further, and it's a grove until it gets to be something that just lives around the entire world, right? So it really inspires me and motivates me to get out of my own head and out of my own way, and those little conversations inside my head going, oh my God, they're gonna see me, and am I gonna screw it up, and oh my God, right? So, what do you have to say?
It's really, I think that's exactly it. We get in our own way, and we're constantly putting out there fear of not doing it right, and what other people are going to say or what they're going to think. And I think this is why these broadcasts are going to be so beautiful and so wonderful for people to receive, because it's not about that. It's not about taking those things personally. It's about showing up for yourself in the way that you want to be seen. And it's uncomfortable. Totally. Right? It's uncomfortable, but it's okay with being uncomfortable if it's coming from a place of love. So I'm hoping that that we get to help you through all of that. We get to, learn through all these processes together without any fear, because it's a lot more fun when
change the conversation. Just change the conversation around that fear, I think, is what we're hoping for, because fear is not this ugly, scary beast that's chasing you in the dark alleys, right? It isn't. It's the conversation in our head that originates from the stories of our lives, or the perceived story of our life, because most of it's a lie anyways.
Right.
And, I don't know about you, but it's like the older and hopefully wiser that I've gotten, I've come to understand those things, that the fear was a surface, it was a surface layer of judgments that I adopted about myself, you know?
We do that. Right. We learn this from our teachers, which are parents and people we look up to, right?
Yeah. And even if we don't look up to them, but it's like who in our eyes as impressionable children during our very vulnerable stages of mental and emotional development, who we are forced to believe are an authority over our lives, right? So I think with that, I think that to give a little context to this conversation for today is it'll be really important because this show is also about sharing very vulnerable conversations about perseverance and how we got here and how we've come to accept those different stages that were also inspired by fear, right? Like that same fear that caused us to suppress our shine, to hold ourselves back and create those barriers in allowing ourselves to be seen in the way that we're meant to. Because Sonia, and I'd say this to you all the time, it's like the world needs you and they need to hear your story and in the way you tell it, because there's certain people who have been waiting for you and for me. And not everybody is going to interpret the stories the same, and we might have similar stories, but everybody's voice is very unique. And think of it as like in an orchestra, every instrument, every note is very unique, and not everybody can hear the same tones and the same pitches, and it's that way for a reason, because there's very particular flavors of messages being delivered that are designed for very specific people. And the more we hold ourselves back and prevent ourselves from sharing our stories, we do a disservice to the world, right? So I mean, tell me, like, how often do you see it in your practice? I mean, you've been doing it for quite some time and have helped thousands of people. She started when she was 10. Okay.
Yeah, right. Yes, we're again not yet discussing age here, but it really doesn't matter. Age is only a number. How I feel is definitely not my age, but we have to show up in an authentic way, and my story, and we'll be sharing, both of us, our stories, but my story, I actually in the beginning thought my story was embarrassing, and why would I share this story with anybody, right? I actually was asked to be in a book with 24 other amazing women to share their story. And first of all, I was wondering why on earth, out of everyone on the planet, would this lady reach out to me and ask for me to share my story? And still, in sharing my story, I didn't share my full story, right? I was giving pieces of my story because I'm thinking, why? Like my whole family doesn't even know this story about me. And it's really my journey. It's really why I do what I do today. So why wouldn't I share it? And one, it was, I didn't share my full story because I didn't want to worry my loved ones. But two, when I started to share my story, what I found in return were the way people responded to me and went, oh my God, I had no idea. When I look at you, I never would have thought you would have gone through any of this or had any relation to these fears or these problems that have happened to me. How would you know, right? You're skinny and you're fit and you eat healthy, and how would you know? Well, it wasn't always that way, right? And
the how would you know, you mean in like, what the struggle is, or what it is to be sick, or what it is to be overweight, or what it is to be suffering, right?
Yes. And so basically 25 years ago, I was fighting for my life. I had given birth to my oldest son, and at that time, I was in ICU for 15 days. They were pretty close to inducing a coma. I had toxemia. My body completely shut down and stopped fighting for me. I had no control over my joints, my muscles in my body. And long story short, I came out on the other side. But when I left the hospital, I was 43 pounds heavier than I arrived 8 months pregnant. I had given birth prematurely to my son. So it was Jesus, 10 weeks early. So when I left the hospital, I had 4 chins. Like I was unrecognizable. My eyes were swollen shut, and I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't even walk. I had no control over my entire body. And I started to eat what I thought was healthy and what my doctors told me were healthy to take care of my body. And what was happening is they were telling me to eat less and exercise more. Everybody out there has heard this, right? Starve your body, exercise all day. You can exercise yourself out of nutrition. No, you can't.
Right.
So,
well, and I think, that's the food shaming, right?
Right.
That's the food shaming, the body shaming. And it's all of those conversations, all of those professionals. And this is, so let's be clear before, anybody gets offended, because we honor and respect the medical community because they have a place. And this is, so I just want to add the caveat that this is the experience that we have had when we talk about these things. And by no means are we knocking it, and we value it very much, but we just are wanting to bring awareness that there is more available. Okay.
Absolutely.
So sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but I just want to add that in there.
No, and that is, thank you, because that is absolutely the truth. And the doctor saved my life, right?
Right.
Ultimately, when we were there in the hospital. But once I got home, the recovery part of it and how to get my immune system to work again, they were just telling me, what we're all still told today. And this was 25 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. So at this time, they're telling me that I need to just exercise more. I was exercising 6 days a week. I couldn't exercise any more than I was exercising. And I didn't know what eating healthy was. And neither did the professionals at the time that were telling me. They couldn't tell me what to do. They could just say the words, you need to eat healthy.
Right. They couldn't even define it for you.
They couldn't. So they weren't actually even telling me what to do. They were basically say, figure it out.
Yeah.
Because I don't really have the answer for it.
Yeah.
So I went on that journey. It did take me 1.5 years. And what I realized is I had to detox my body. I had to clean my body out, get all of this stuff out of my system that I had been doing for 25 years. Yeah. And I then had to take control over and listen to my body. I had to pay attention to what my body was telling me, because my body would tell me one thing with the healthy food, and then I would eat it and I wasn't feeling good. So even healthy food wasn't feeling good. So how does that make sense, right?
Right.
And what we knew was healthy. So I had to learn so much about my body. But first and foremost, I had to learn how to listen to my body. What was my body telling me? And through this 1.5 year process, I learned how to master listening to my body and not following a protocol, not following a diet per se. Yeah. It was, what does my body need for energy? How do I need to rest? What is this water doing for my body? And it was starting small. And I did research how to heal my body, how to figure out how to clean my body. And I did it in a way that I put 1 million pieces together to figure out what that formula is, which is really what I do with my clients today. It's not about a diet. It's not about paleo and keto and blah, 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 blah.
The fats, right? Like the one size fits all, let me try this and throw it on the wall and see if it sticks. And it worked for so-and-so, so it should work for me.
That's right.
Because I eat better, or I exercise more, right? We do the comparison.
Yeah. And when it doesn't work, what do? Oh, I must have done it wrong. We think we've done something wrong because it's not showing the same effects that everybody else has. Or we get the results And then at the end of this short period of time, we go back to doing what we were doing. And all of a sudden our body shows up again and says, hey, pay attention to me.
Yes.
That's not working. It was a quick fix. Now what? And it's all about educating ourselves about our own body, about our own body's blueprint. And this is what I do with thousands of clients that I've been working with for now over 25 years. But that wasn't the cure all end all in my journey. After I started to heal my body, 6 months later, I had a brand new baby. I was just starting to walk again. My body was just starting to not bloat and inflame and put my body in pain. And I was going in for test, and I found out that I had uterine cancer. With a brand new baby at 25 years old, there is no way I was going out that way.
No. So you were in crisis from the very moment that happened, and you're
and
escalating into crisis and just into a new phase of crisis.
Yeah, it was, and that was like wake up call number 2. The first one was bad, was really bad. And then the second one was like, now what are you going to do? What are you going to do to change your life? Yes, you're healing your body, but you need to look at it in another way of how long do you want to be here, right? This is what my intuition was telling me. How long do I want to be here? I have a brand new baby at 25 years old. I had been married for 3 years already, and my body was telling me, you're not going to have the energy you need to support this baby and this new family and this new life. And so what did that mean for me? I had to go back to the source. I had to go back to honoring myself, honoring universe, God, whatever you call this amazing intuitive feeling and thoughts of goodness and love and honoring yourself. And what are you going to do now? And that is the journey that I started almost 26 years ago now to be able to help with my clients. And that's where I teach from. I teach from how to eat food that heals your body. And what does that mean for you? And it doesn't mean a diet. We know diets don't work, which is why it's over now, $37 billion industry a year.
And they don't work.
And then you do it all again.
Well, yeah.
And they invent a new way to do it the following year, right? A new way to tweak Atkins and then call it keto, and the new way to do all of these things. And yes, I'm not saying they don't work. They do work for the
right person, for the right persons.
For the right person, but it's not a sustainable lifestyle. And that's what I'm actually getting at. What is a sustainable lifestyle for you? So you don't have to diet. You don't have to go on diets. You don't have to look at food in a negative way. Food is your friend, not your enemy. And what we need to look at, and what I love teaching to my clients, is who are you being while you're eating? What is the messages that are coming through? Why are we doing the things we do? Why do we put in these behavior habits? Or are we even aware of our behavior habits? Why are they showing up? They're showing up because something hasn't been healed. Something hasn't been addressed. Something hasn't been acknowledged. It really isn't about the food. It's about our past experiences and how we've learned to react to those. And doesn't matter how old you are, if you have not been given a new tool to deal with those same stressors that target and just trigger your behavior habits, you're going to continue to do it. And as Cynthia said, as we get older, we have this wisdom, and we do, but sometimes we don't have the maturity that goes with actually what wisdom means. We are still in that little girl and that little boy body reacting to things the same way we've always reacted to it. And so our maturity of learning how to look at how we approach ourselves, nobody else, no one else's judgment, no one else, but how are we judging ourselves? How are we looking at ourselves? This is why we can't stay on path, or this is why we procrastinate, or this is why we don't allow for love and light and to receive. Are you receiving? And if you're not receiving, it's showing up in your health in some way. It might not be in gaining weight. It could be in inflammation and pain in your body. It can be in migraines and headaches in your body. It can be disease that is accumulating over years in your body and you don't find out until 10, 15, 20 years later. It shows up. I promise you. I am here to tell you, it shows up. And it shows up when you are unaware of it. I was blessed because I became aware at a very young age as to what that looks like, which is why I believe that I am here to teach and to help anyone out there that is looking for another way to approach this. If you've tried everything, I tried all the yo-yo dieting.
Yes.
We've done all the fad dieting. When you're done and you're fed up with all of that and you're like, I want it to be easy. I want to eat food, real food.
Enjoy the food. That's the other thing.
Exactly. And enjoy being social and enjoy being with your family and enjoy having dessert and enjoy eating meat, not eating meat. It is up to you, but allowing yourself to trust yourself that your body already knows what you need and understanding how to listen to it.
Absolutely. It's changing the relationship. And you know, you made a very significant point, because in the work that I do, right? So I work with the subconscious mind. I focus on emotional fitness and getting to the root of the emotional wounding. And it's a spiritual journey, right? And you said, that coming out of something so traumatic at such a vulnerable transition in your life, because becoming a mother, your whole identity is like turned upside down to begin with, right? That's like without the added element of crisis and fighting for your life and trying to restore your health and to live, right? Just to see, that you can be around for that little, beautiful baby. And then to get, that news of, okay, good job, Sonia. Guess what though? Now you got this shitstorm to, excuse the language, to handle, and how are you going to do it, right? And like you said, it was like that something in that deeper sense inside of you that had you asking that question. What is it that you want, right? Do you want this life bad enough to advocate for yourself? And those are things that we're not taught, that there are spiritual journeys. And when we talk about spirituality, and the way I teach it is that love that you have for another human being, or for your children, or, that level of compassion that you can put someone else above you or before you. That's that thing that speaks from your heart, that is spirituality. Okay. It's not a organized religion. It's the thing that draws you to that. It's the thing that enhances that experience in your life. It's what defines you as a whole person, that leads you to find these things, whether it be organized religion or whether it be, something else, right? Whether it be the woo-woo, whether it be, angels and spirits and all that. Like, it all comes from that same place of genuine love, that knowing that at the core of everything, that we all deserve to be happy. Yes. Right? And that we all deserve to live a satisfying, fulfilling life. Right? And that's the part that has been missing. That's the part that when you're talking about the little girl and the little boy inside of you, we're reparenting that part of ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. And it's in different areas in our life. It might be, in your physical health. For me, it shows up in my actual parenting, right? Because I have been committed on this journey for quite some time now. I've been doing personal development. I am a entrepreneur, right? Multi-passionate entrepreneur, spiritual junkie now. But I was like a personal growth junkie since I was 17, because going into a little bit in my journey, I have two amazing parents who did the best that they could to give their 5 children a better life than they had. They came into parenthood with a lot of trauma and baggage, like most human beings do. So in the things that Sonia and I share, this is not about pathologizing anybody, meaning we're not victims. We are not shaming and blaming. We are just acknowledging the experience that we have as our memories recalls certain things. And we share them with you with the intention of offering you a new perspective on how to look at it and not be victimized by it. Okay? So I want to add that preface there. But I grew up with a lot of trauma, right? And I'm not going to go into the details of it, but I remember being 7 years old, looking up at the stars in the sky going, there can't be such a thing as God, because why would he allow so much suffering in the world? I would watch the news and see these horrible stories of people doing things to other people, things happening to innocent children, like these awful, awful, ugly things that still occur on the news every single day that are pointless and mindless. And I couldn't understand why. Like, why? To the point where I remember by the time I got to be like in junior high, I would ask to go to church with my different friends who had different faith backgrounds, right? I went to Baptist churches, I went to Mormon, I went to Catholic, Christian, to see, why does one say they're better than the other? Because it doesn't make any kind of sense, right? Why would they not love each other all the same? And what was interesting is that they all had the foundational basis of beliefs, but there was these layers of kind of incongruencies that were saying, love your neighbor if.
Right.
Right? So those were the things that I had a difficulty with. And then, the experiences that I had into my, being the oldest of 5 kids, I had to grow up very, very quickly. My parents were entrepreneurs, and they owned a restaurant, and they, in their decision to give us the best life that they possibly could, spent most of their time there, right? And there was stuff going on in our house that shouldn't have been going on when they were away. And, it puts a person at such a young age, and it forces them to make a decision. And that decision usually ends up being, okay, my childhood cannot exist anymore, right? I remember I was 7 years old, and this is through my process, 20 years of doing my own personal work, as well as supporting other people throughout that journey as well. But now realizing that I was like, at 7 years old is when I made the decision to stop being a child. And I took on the responsibility of having to be the grown-up, right? And that showed up in so many different ways. And I was born different. I am what you would, has now there's an actual medical term, right? It's called, it's referred to as the highly sensitive person. And all that means is that the nervous system, the biology, is designed to be more sensitive to external and internal information. So like sound, the sensory input is more heightened in my receptivity. For some, it's like so overwhelming that they can't even be around other people for very long periods of time, right? It's so the degrees of sensitivity vary from person to person. I think because of the life that I've led, I've adopted, like I've adapted so well that I can manage certain environments better than others. But I spent most of my life being unfit to fit in. I became I call myself a shapeshifter, because I managed to be what everybody else needed me to be, and never really fully understanding who I was in the process, because it was easier to get lost in the crowd than to be seen, right? So that being said, I spent, from the minute I was old enough, I saved my money, and I had gone to what I thought was like a business entrepreneur thing, because I was so committed to like making money so that I can get the hell out. Right? And I did this. I would jump from, no joke, like every 6 months I was going from workshop to mastermind to, for 20 years I have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars collectively searching for something and learning to master, like literally master myself in the process, and learning how the mind has so much influence over our experiences, and how much that is a spiritual experience that I didn't realize it was until maybe about 10 years ago when I had my crisis into motherhood, right?
Yes.
I had the most amazing, my daughter's now 8.5. She's going to have her birthday in April. And I have 2 little girls, both amazing creatures that teach me every single day. But it was the most amazing pregnancy. I had done everything right. Like I had a lot of, through that 20-year plus period of personal development and personal mastery, I got exposed very early on through my parents to alternative medicine. So acupuncture, chiropractic, massage therapies, essential oils. My mom is very much an advocate of natural healing, and it runs in my culture as well as yours, right, Sonia? Yes. It runs deep in our roots, because it's like part of our heritage is the herbal remedies and so I get exposed to a lot of these things, Ayurveda, and so I had an awareness so that when it came down to my pregnancy, I actually did pretty good, right? I know that I didn't know everything, but I had made a conscious choice to work on my mental and emotional health to kind of clear the baby condo, so that I had an understanding at a basic level that whatever it is that was going on, because it was my body and my emotions, that I was going to transfer over to this baby. Just logic, right? They're occupying my space. How am I not going to transfer that to them? Now I understand like the mechanics behind it and the psychology, which we'll probably go through one of those episodes and talk more about it. But nonetheless, I had an amazing pregnancy up until the day of delivery. I had an emergency C-section, and thank the heavens, the universe, my doctor, everything aligned to where I managed to get to the hospital, where the one night that they didn't have an overcrowded emergency room, they had just enough staff, and my doctor happened to be available at 4:00 in the morning, right? So it was a very traumatic situation, and again, crisis. And I think that was one of the bigger moments where it catalyzed like this psychic ability, this spiritual journey to understand myself better. And up until that point, I rejected it, right? Up until that point, if you would have talked to me, about being intuitive and psychic, I would have, like, because I appreciate it and I believe it because of the experiences that I've had with other people growing up, my mom being one of them. I would have been like, yeah, not me. You're out of your mind. Like, I'm all logic. I'm all intellect. You're crazy. Well, that was all thrown out the window, and I had no choice because of what was happening with my baby. All of these different things started happening and leading me to understand that the part of me that had not had any attention through those 20 years was my internal spiritual life. And that was the part of me that was like screaming for attention. And how important it is to nurture that part of ourselves, and how much we have rejected and suppressed, and how much women's intuition has been another element of shaming, right?
Absolutely.
And how now it's a revival, and bringing that back, and accepting that part of our lives, and becoming a whole person, embracing all those different elements, that our spiritual journey is very much about our healing journey, and that it'll reflect in the mental and emotional, and how they're interconnected, because you can't have one without the other. Those are the things that you cannot heal completely. What you're saying, like the diets and all that, like you're trying to fix it band-aids on a problem that's much deeper. Right. So I know, like, we won't be able to cover it today, but there's one thing that, that you teach, and we've covered in our Her Life Mastery program, which is very powerful. It's like, you know, how your eating habits, fulfilling the uns, right? That's what you call it. 'Cause I think
Yes,
that was one of the
filling
modules.
your uns. When you feel unhappy, unsatisfied, unheard, those are the things that we do with food. So that would be a great, I think, broadcast to go over.
I totally agree. And we'll definitely focus on that, because you hear all of these different topics, and I'm so grateful, because it's more awareness, self-love, and self-love is not just about these activities that you put in place to find relief. It's one piece of it, but the real self-love is coming to understand yourself in a way and accept the part of you that you've been denying, right?
Right.
Because I think that's ultimately what self-love is to love the messy bits, to love the bits that the world told you wasn't right. And you want to know what's so crazy? Of course, I watched this movie yesterday. So, oh shoot, I can't remember the name. It's a Sandra Bullock movie. It was on last night, and I had to watch it because I've watched it before, and it's such a quirky little movie. But I think it's called All About Steve. Have you seen it? Okay,
No.
so Sandra Bullock's character is, she is a puzzle maker. She's extremely brilliant, and she's so brilliant that she's constantly sharing information with everybody. So like if you say something and you and you make a grammatical error in what you're saying, she'll correct you, but she'll give you like the reason why it's wrong. So she's just kind of like this walking encyclopedia, and she's always sharing whether people want to or not. So people, they reject her because she's, you know, she's just this big personality, and you think that she's not aware of the fact that people are being annoyed. But it's kind of like, you know, it's part of her beauty, right? So she has this she has this date with oh gosh, I can't remember his name. Oh, Bradley Cooper's character, right? So he's he films for the news, and he's part of a field reporting crew, and he has a date with her, and like he's, you know, judging her in the whole bit. So like she's beautiful, but like, you know, she's weird. And so to get her out of the car, he's like, okay, well, you know, I got to go on the road. You probably should come, and, you know, too bad, like you can't come with me, right? She takes it as a literal invitation.
Nice.
So anyways, the whole premise is like she goes on this journey, making Bradley Cooper the emphasis of her journey, when in fact it was her discovering that it's okay to be who she is. Right? And throughout this whole experience, it was really pertinent, because there's a moment she falls into a well, or an old mine, where some deaf children had fallen in, and they had taken them all out. But because she was running across the field to get to Bradley Cooper's character, she fell into the mine. It's funny as shit. But she ends up finding out that one of the little kids was left in there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's crazy. Anyways, when they finally come about, there was a moment where there was a scene where there's amazing sea of people with candlelights and signs that says, "We love you, Mary." They had met her at a rally from beforehand, most of them, and they're just like, they came out to support, and they're all different, unique kind of individuals too, that would have been judged by most people. And one of her friends looks at the anchor and says, you know, what did you do? That's what you did. And it's all the media and all the bull, you know, the BS. And she said, this was what Mary did. And you look at the sea of all the love that's being shared, right? Wow. And it was really incredible. But the point of it was, it's like the journey that she came to discover was, it was okay to be who she was. That she didn't have to, you know, that she didn't have to chase somebody else to prove that she's lovable.
Right.
Right. But along the way that she discovered that there are other people like her who are unique and different, who don't fit exactly where they think they want to be. And that there's other people that would welcome them with open arms, and that they can be exactly who they are. Right. Yeah. So I think it really kind of ties this topic together here, in that, you know, when you start to really embrace the whole journey, I think that's why we came up with the title of this broadcast, right? Because it is a process, and we're always under construction.
That's
It
right.
never ends.
That's right. And we
It
have to
never
start at our foundation, right?
You have to build the foundation, and if you have a foundation that's unstable, then it's a process of going and discovering where the imbalance is.
Yeah.
Like what piece is missing. Maybe it's just one piece that needed to be placed there that just needs a little bit of attention, and that's the part of you that is looking to heal, right?
Absolutely.
So do you have any other thoughts?
No, that it is just that. It's finding our what we are not paying attention to. It's finding those cracks. It's finding maybe something that we put away so long ago that we haven't addressed, that needs to be addressed so that our foundation can be solid. And just each and every day, our words do that. Our
Yeah.
words are so unbelievably powerful. One word can change someone's life.
Yes, absolutely.
I see this happening every day. This happens to me on the daily, just even with my dealing, helping coach my clients. And I coach clients from all over the world through Zoom meetings and the Skyping, those kinds of things, where we don't have to be in the same room. But if we're speaking the same language and we're understanding each other on that level of listening, and then receiving the love of what that person wants to do for you and to help you, your words can really change and create miracles. So that's what I think Cynthia and I are doing here in these broadcasts, where we're broadcasting out there, just so that you can hear our voice, just so you can see if some of this resonates with you. And if it does, fantastic. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. We love you anyway. And
Absolutely.
we love that, you have opinion one way or another, but maybe there is something that comes about in our broadcast that you're like, wow, I didn't think of it that way. And I'm curious and I'm interested in learning for me, right? And that's what this is about. It's about getting people together so we can learn from each other, without judgment, and out of love, and out of the intention of wanting to do something on purpose, and taking responsibility for our intentions and the things that we do for ourselves as well as what we do for others. Don't just do it because everybody else is doing it. Do it because you have love in your heart and you want to do it because you want to help. And when you always come from that place, nothing but good comes back in return.
Absolutely. And then also taking responsibility for the things that you're not doing, because those are choices too.
Yeah.
Right? Those
Avoidance.
are choices too. Avoiding is a choice. Not making a decision is making a decision.
That's right.
It really is. So, and not making yourself wrong about it. But if we trigger you in any of the things that we talk about, or us as individuals, if like you hear a voice and be like, ugh, like you react, ask yourself, what is it about this person that I don't like about myself? Because that's usually the reflection, the mirror, that something that's being mirrored back to you, and that's a gift. And that's one of the things, and we'll cover this in another show, but one of my most powerful tools that I apply in my own life and that I teach with my clients is like going treasure hunting. If you're going to reflect on the past, do it to treasure hunt, to find the things that you couldn't see because you were not the same person then than you are now. And always look for the blessing in the mess, because there is a blessing. And the minute that you're able to accept responsibility for your role in that experience, in that memory, that's a gift you can bring forward in a new awareness that can support you in making better decisions for yourself. So I follow Esther Hicks' law of attraction, and we'll teach about that stuff here as well from our perspective. But, she says it's like, and this is such a beautiful phrase, it's like how you learn what you want is by learning what you don't want. And that's a blessing. right? And yeah, so take responsibility for there is no good or bad, but if that's how you see it, then fine. Take responsibility for the good, bad, and the ugly, and everything in between. It's all of our own creation in one fashion or another. And, and I know that might be a hot button if you've had life experience that has been very, has had the ugliest face. I've been there too. So has Sonia. So we are your people, and we understand. And we're not saying ever to justify anybody else's horrible behavior. We're just inviting you to take your power back and claiming something that was taken from you, and by looking at it a little differently. Because when you stop being victimized by it, you regain your power, right? So that'll be one of the last messages that we'll leave with you for today. But we thank you for being here, and we hold this space for all the women, and we dedicate this program, like this broadcast, to all the beautiful souls that have ever touched our hearts, and anyone that we've ever had the privilege of connecting with. And if we've ever planted a seed or touched their hearts, I mean, that's for all of you, all of you who've come here. That's what this is about. This is not about us. This is about just us being able to share things in a different way, and inspiring you to look at things differently, and expanding your mind to consider a new path, that now that you have a new option to look at things differently, and just having those hard conversations. So we'll bring you more for sure. And let us know, let us know what your journey's been like. Did you have an aha moment as we shared our story? Because part of why we wanted to is because most of the time in people who do this kind of work, I could imagine how many of Sonia's clients are going to hear this for the first time and go, holy crap, like, really, Sonia? How come I never knew this? Right? And it's sharing ourselves in such a vulnerable way that just because we're doing the work in serving others to help others heal doesn't mean we're not healing in the process as well, right? So we very much take pride in applying the tools that we teach, and know that we don't ever claim to nor want to try to be perfect, that we are perfectly imperfect and growing in our own journeys as well. And we just provide these tools to you because we've had decades of experience and tools, and not only teaching them but applying them. And we know that there's a lot of you out there that don't even have one. So we hope this was of value to you all. Share, like us, heart, share the show with a sister. Or if this is not just for women. A lot of the stuff that we're teaching here, it's not just for women, although the show is specifically dedicated to support the woman's journey. We work with a lot of men as well, and they need our support the most. We need to learn how to nurture ourselves so that we can teach them how to feel safe in nurturing themselves. All right. So happy blessings all. Keep on the lookout. We have our next shows. We're going to start to go into some exciting things that we'll keep you posted on. Join us on our Facebook page at Her Life Mastery. Join the tribe, join the movement to restoring yourselves, your whole life from the inside and out. And we look forward to being with you next week. All the best and much love.
Have a wonderful day.